welcome to the Trinity Force Podcast. Yo, it's that Triforce cast beaming straight to your home. Grab a beer so we know Pony drinking alone. Send an email, a quick tweet, just pick up the phone. Leave a message, hit the beep if you're a creep, watch your tone. Discuss the meta game, patch notes, whatever helps your stats most. Obi-Wan Kenobi is your last hope to snatch gold. So grab your headphones and join in the fun. We'll try and force in some jokes and some cringeworthy puns. Yo, we can make it together, people. Trinity Force Podcast. These boys are second to none. Well, that's the end of the intro. It's time we begun.
And there we are. Now we're live with the Trinity Force Podcast. Not the new Trinity Force Podcast. This is the old Trinity Force Podcast, but I have not been on in a number of weeks, and I've forgotten how to talk. But we are here. My name is Adam Ponophobia Cogswell, just in case you forgot my voice, or are a new listener tuning in for the preseason, and hopefully with us through Season 8. On today's episode, we're actually going to go back a little bit and talk about Season 7 in a retrospective and try to talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, and what we hope changes going forward in the future. Dom threw this one together as he's done a fantastic job of keeping us as a big, happy family and throwing podcasts out every week. So, Dom, you are with us, and so is Beaver. What's up, guys?
Heyo.
Hey.
I gotta apologize real quick to Snagglewolf. I did a terrible job of promoting Extra Life in the weeks leading up to the event this weekend. Thanks to everybody who came out for that. That was a lot of fun. I participated in a few of the in-houses late Saturday evening. Chira was there for some. I know Punch was there. Whale joined us. There were a lot of community people, and there were also just fans of the show. It was a really good time. So thanks everybody for turning up for that.
Well, the good news is we ran an ad on the show at the very beginning.
That's good.
So even though you didn't talk anything about it, it was still there.
To be honest, I didn't think I was going to be there. My niece was staying with us Friday night and Saturday until the afternoon, but I didn't know what time she was leaving, so I genuinely didn't even know if I was going to be there, and so that's kind of why it was out of my mind.
Well, yeah, I was driving 13 hours on that day, so there was no chance in hell I was showing up for anything. I got here down in Louisiana, and I ate some gumbo and I fell asleep. So I am not entirely settled in, and I won't be for another month because unfortunately I am here alone. But my beautiful wife is sitting back, and I'm going to get to go see her this weekend. So I'm very, very excited about that. So and this just helps push the time by, so I can get there one day faster. Now, enough with the sappy shit. Let's talk about Buddha Boxers, right? BuddhaBoxers.com/T-Force. You guys go check that out. I'm wearing a pair today. I wore it for my first day on my new job because it's hotter than hell down here. And you know what? After being in a place that's hotter than hell, these boxers work. I told you they worked before, but I feel fantastic. So they do. They wick away the sweat. They're made from bamboo. BuddhaBoxers.com/T-Force. Go check it out, guys. Go help support the podcast. Patreon.com/T-Force Network. Now that we're back in the swing of things, I should be able to help out, get a couple more champion selects out this month. Beaver did do Shyvana, and so that is out there for last month. I know we tell you guys we're pushing 2 out every month, but there are going to be a few where we have 1. And I do apologize for that, but I always try to make up for it. And we're going to try to make up for it this month. And so we'll keep moving forward. Weekly challenge. Is there a weekly challenge?
Follow me on Twitter.
No, well, with the season being over, we don't have anything for you to learn or focus on in games and everything. Figure out what the rune system is and how that's going to work for you, and take a minute to decide if you want to learn a new role or something during this stretch of time. Preseason, off season is a great time to get out there, explore, try new champions, try different lanes, roles, that type of thing. So that's what we want you all to think about and be doing, during this week.
I'm going to think about how I can play some more and how I can get gold in 3s. That's my goal in the next 24 hours.
24 hours.
Play 10 games, win at least 7 of them, so that way I get placed in the gold and I don't have to play anymore.
You got like 29 hours, 30, something like that.
I mean, I got to take some time I got to go buy groceries and stuff. I'm sick of eating out. I've been here like 2 days and I'm already sick of eating out. So I'm going to go buy some groceries and start actually cooking up some food like a person.
Louisiana listeners, if you're out there, send Adam some restaurant recommendations.
That would be great. I love restaurants. I had some nice gumbo, so I'm already one step there. I can get me some nice hot spicy shrimp. That's next. All right, well, let's talk League of Legends, shall we? We've already gone 10 minutes into this too far, and we're going to talk about the Season 7 post-mortem today. Being the last show of Season 7, we wanted to talk about, I guess, everything and anything this Season 7, and I don't really know where to start with this, to be honest with you.
I don't know. So, it almost feels like most appropriate to start out with the whole solo duo queue and flex queue thing, because I had a lot of fun last season with like solo queue just being one big thing, and you could queue up with a group of whatever size that you wanted and everything. That was an unpopular opinion. I know pretty much everyone on the show thought that was good, but everybody outside of the show, it seemed like, was just not a big fan of that. I didn't hear any complaints about the solo duo queue and flex queue thing going on and everything. I genuinely enjoyed playing both queues all season long. I played more flex queue than I did solo queue, but I did play a reasonably comparable amount. I maybe have like 20% more games in flex queue.
Man. I've got far more games in flex queue this season than solo queue. I hardly played any. I played a couple hundred games of flex, and I did see people still trying to downplay flex and say that it's, not the best queue, and that, I kind of go in flex to have a little bit, to have fun, but still have a little bit of competition, and solo queue is really where the grind is at and stuff. And I understand that flex can have a wide variety of elos, but I do believe that it that tests you as a player in certain, in certain games, because it forces you to play with people that you're not commonly played with, so it forces you to either be a leader, step up and be a leader, or step up and try to carry the game, or it forces you to use skills you're not used to using in solo queue and flex queue, and I do like that as a change of pace from what we had to do last year.
Whale, who's in Diamond, says that he honestly doesn't think there's any difference between flex queue and solo duo queue.
No, I agree with that too. I don't think there's a big difference. I've been playing a lot of flex the last week or so. I went on a 15-game win streak, and I was like skipping divisions all over the place.
But you were also like way lower than your solo queue.
It's true. I was somewhere in gold, and then now I'm in platinum 1. But I started playing with some of the games. I would be with everyone on both teams was diamond 1 or master tier. That was like that for a while, and that's probably because of my MMR. But then also, I'd have other games where I'm the only person in diamond, and then there's like, a bunch of gold players. So the difference in quality of your opponents was vast. But one thing I noticed is the teams were always like fairly balanced as far as solo queue ranks go. So very, very few times did I have a game where it was like all diamonds versus all golds. Though it did happen once or twice, and they were kind of stomps. But I'm talking about solo MMR in flex,
right?
Because I know you can be a lot higher in flex. But yeah. I don't know. I think it's been competitive, honestly. I haven't had any games that are just like no one's trying or there's inting.
Todd was the only person I know who was less of a fan of flex queue, and he had a very good reason for it. Flex queue is generally the more coordinated queue that you can play in, and Todd, playing a champion that tends to be more successful in solo queue, did not enjoy the coordinated experience as much. He still played with us, and I think he had fun every time, but he made that complaint, and I was able to see where he was coming from on that.
I think he came around to it, though, because he's been inviting people to flex left and right recently instead of playing solo queue. Maybe because he's come to peace with his solo queue rank for the season, but still, I think he has a lot of fun playing, and I know a lot of people are having fun. I personally have more fun being able to play with 2 or 3 people. I guess it'd be 2 or 4 people.
2 or 4.
2 or 4 people, right? I personally have fun playing with everybody else, and I like to have a queue that I'm able to do that in. I don't have to be generally in the same elo. I just wish that some of the other people that were on my list would actually care about flex queue. I know Punch cares, I guess, but maybe he's at the point where he doesn't because he's playing with his ranked 5s group, and they're all lower MMR, so he's got to keep himself low to play with them.
Well, he has a Smurf.
There's a significant difference within flex queue whether you're playing solo, duo, trio, or as a 5-man unit. It's a completely different game. I've only played like 70 games of flex or something, maybe slightly less. And I would say half of them are solo and half of them were with you guys as usually as 5s. And the game is completely different. there's a lot more there's a lot more team play happening in those fives. Whereas when you're playing solo, you may be paired with another solo or a duo or two duos or something like that. And the coordination isn't quite there, so it's still sort of like solo queue where you can crack down and make some shot calls by yourself. But it's typically through.
But
chat.
you know, with that being said, I do think it ends up making you a better player, or you know, makes it more people. As long as you're playing it as a group and you're trying to be somewhat coordinated, even with 3 people. Last night I made a Heartless Beaver Baron call that we ended up securing Baron. One of those where, you know, it's just like, oh, we're doing Baron now? Oh, shit, we took Baron? Well, yeah, it made sense to do it because you start, you know, playing with you and playing those games where you're like calling the Baron and people actually go for him made me have a different, you know, maybe look at the game a little differently. And now I'm always looking for those opportunities to sneak Baron in when previously it was like, we're only doing Baron because we have like
there's nothing else to do, or we're so far ahead that we might as well. Yeah.
Right. And now I'm like, Baron is an objective that we could just take. Like it doesn't really hit as hard as you think it does. And we actually have the damage now with the way Marksman and Ardent Sensor works.
It's seriously the best objective outside of the Nexus, in my opinion. It just gives you so much pressure right across the map. The minions speeding up. You can push lanes super easily because your minions have a stat buff. You guys get a bunch of global gold, the recalls. It's really powerful.
There's so much risk involved with it, though.
There's
so much less risk involved, like just trying to with taking a turret or something in most cases.
That's true, but most of the time when you make those Baron calls, it's like no one really expects it. I'm not gonna call it risky Baron. Like if everyone, it's like it's got vision and stuff like that. I'm not gonna call it, especially at 20 minutes. But if everyone's on the map, I can see them, or I know they're not expecting it. We got a Fed Kled top or Garen or whatever, just give it a go.
See, I'd like to make the argument that those aren't as risky as you think they are, because I think what I think is riskier is taking a bunch of cats and trying to herd those cats around the outer objectives, because all those cats just want to run down mid lane, right? But for some reason, cats are always attracted to shiny dangly things, and Baron is shiny and dangly. So now we can get all these cats together and we can actually herd them around Baron, and people now want to do Baron. So like your Baron calls are the ones we're talking about. Let me explain what the Baron calls are. These are the calls where it's 20-25 minutes into the game, and we see the jungler backing, and we know that 2 or 3 people are sitting bot lane, so we are relatively uncontested at Baron, and all of us are on that side of the map, so we just run and do it really fast. That is more than less the Beaver Baron call. And again, this is at the 20
free Baron.
minutes.
That is a free Baron. Baron only spawns with 10,000 health, you have to remember. It's like, I think Dragon has 5,000 to start, right? So it has a little bit more. It deals a bit more damage, but if there's 2 of you and like at least one of you is fed and you both have damage, then you can easily duo it.
Right. So to put that, so now you kind of have a perspective of what a Heartless Beaver Baron call is. Now you understand where, again, I'm going to use that herding cat analogy where like when you're dangling that string in front of their face, those cats always go for it, but they'll never go for that string they don't like. And for whatever reason, solo queuers don't like to get the outer turrets. Everybody will take like maybe just the first outer turrets, and instead of rotating and setting someone bot lane and having 4 top, everyone just tries to drive down mid. Right? I mean, that's solo queue. So I think I just like the fact that I can now channel this let's drive down mid over to that other dangly string that people like to do. And it's like, it's an objective we can take. And now when people want to drive down mid, at least we have extra oomph and power behind it. Because, you know, before I was just standing there and with a thumb up my ass.
I'm just, you know, I remember all the games that I'm quick to remember the games I have lost because we decided to do Baron and we shouldn't have, and it's hard to remember the games that we won because of a well-called Baron.
I was doing that
in light of all that.
I was playing with some listeners the other day, and we had a horrible Baron call. We're like, oh, let's just do it. It was 30 minutes, and then we got clean wiped, and they took the Baron. Felt really bad.
That's not what
you're they'll remember that, but you know, you gotta be safe about it. Well, I mean, sometimes you gotta take risks, especially when you're behind.
Going into season 8, to totally get us back onto where we started everything, I'd like to see them remove the restriction of parties of 4 from flex queue.
That won't happen.
I mean, I would like to see them do that, just if nothing else, as an experiment. See how long, you know, I think parties of 4 would understand that they might be queuing up for a lot longer than they might want to. But you know, just do it as an experiment. If it utterly fails, it's seems like it'd be a pretty easy thing to put that block back in place. But how many times did we have a group of 4? Like, especially as the year went on, like it seemed like we always had a group of 4, and so we ended up playing normal games instead of flex queue like we wanted to.
Yeah,
But it happens, right?
Big problem with the parties of 4, in my opinion, is if the solo player gets put in a role that's really important for communication, like jungle or support, then they're gonna have a disadvantage compared to the enemy team who has the communication advantage.
And that's the exact reason that Riot is not going to do it. They're never going to do it. As Smite, when they first came out, they've always disabled parties of 4 for the same reason. It's just too awkward for that 4th person, no matter the other side to try to the other side justification.
It would be nice, but
I would rather see it and have it in place and see what happens before we like wholesale decide nope, it could never possibly work. It's like that's just unnecessarily premature. And if it means like a month of awkward games or something for some people, well, okay, that's a bummer. But I don't like you're probably still only going to go 500 or something, just like you would every other month. I don't think it would be as big of a deal as you guys and presumably Riot seem to be making it out.
I don't know what kind of data is quantifiable for that. Like you can't understand. The only thing you can look at is chat, right? And potentially if those 4-mans are winning more games as 4 than they are losing with the 1. But you can't quantify how someone feels after being that for the person out unless they're making a survey or completing a survey or whatever it is. And even the Riot's probably getting 0.1% of their player base to even complete that survey when the game ends. So
I don't know if
it's probably too hard to try to figure out what actually is happening compared to how someone feels.
If we didn't have Discord working the way it does and being just so easy to give a URL to anybody, and let them in for one game or something like that, I would be more inclined to agree with you guys. Back when we were on the Skype or Ventrilo, those days. But Discord makes it really easy. Riot's got to be looking at doing their own type of voice integration for the game. I mean, it seems like we're trying to find arguments to not do it instead of like just saying, "Hey, let's try," and see what happens.
Another problem with a 4 stack is they're always going to blame the one person. So
you always blame your teammates anyway. And the one
but you're not going to blame your friends as much as you're going to blame a random. So you're going to be like, oh, that 5th person costs the game. And it would suck to get into a chat with 4 people that are all friends, and then you're getting hard roasted. It would feel bad.
Mute them.
I don't think that's a very good answer to that. Dom, you having fun working through the document here?
Oh, clicking all over the place?
Yeah,
I just always do that. It's kind of a...
Yeah, everyone can see it because I can see your name moving around.
I'm not trying to hide it or anything. It's just something I do.
Go click on another document. God damn it.
Yeah.
So
click on your document.
I don't know how I feel about that. Well, you know what you don't have in here is you don't have the... Oh, there it is. ADC in 2017. I found it. Yeah, ADC in 2017 lol. Right? Like, the ADCs in the beginning of this season were just dog shit garbage. Now we've gone back full circle. Well, this always goes back to what we've said this 3 or 4 years ago, that the game rolls in cycles, right? Where it's a tank, and then it's an assassin, then it's a fighter, and then it's like the metas just kind of roll in cycles, and right now we're rolling back through that cycle with the marksman at the end of the season. And it's all going to get shaken up once we roll in the preseason.
Yeah, I mean, who even knows going into next season? We're mages? Yeah, I guess mages were what were like super strong at the start of the year, huh?
Mages were super strong at one point. Oriana's been strong forever. Syndra was like one of the most talked about.
Mages were really good at the end of last season too.
Yeah. I don't know. Did Assassins ever have their high point this year? I mean, I know they got the rework.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, there was the Duskblade section of gameplay where everyone built it.
Yeah, because there was a while there where like Jhin and stuff was super popular again because of like the Duskblade rush. And Assassins when they flipped back over lethality as well, and before they went in and fixed some of the other items, the Assassins were really good.
I'm sure your experience is going to be like almost the exact opposite of mine. I enjoyed the ADC in 2017 stretch of time because it let me play a lot of different champions, and then everybody kind of started realizing that Redemption was super super powerful, and so but we were all playing tanks and just rushing that item irrespective of its usefulness otherwise. But I'm comparing that to the end of season 7 when it was play champions that are going to be able to rush Arden Sensor, and I'm just thinking that's just not fun to play at all. Just to be like stuck in that type of environment where you have no alternative. Like you feel like you're holding your team back just because of the champion that you pick. I much preferred the way the early and mid season were going to what the end of season ended up being. But I'm sure your experience as an AD carry player, Adam, was very, very different because you went from being like just the butt of every joke and dying first in every team fight to suddenly being the most powerful member of the team once your support got the item.
I preferred last season. I preferred season 6 AD carries at the end, but that's because I really liked playing Jhin, right? Like I'm always gonna complain, and I could be one of those person that's gonna force Jhin into everything, but the fact of the matter is that's probably the only role that you can't really force a marksman through unless I guess you have to be like absolutely phenomenal to force that marksman through. Now with the way the meta was, like if I was playing Jhin through the Ardent Sensor meta, we'd have to be winning by like 25 minutes. Otherwise I'm getting completely outscaled and I'm hampering my team because I'm playing that champion. So, wax and wane with the meta, but I'm hopefully looking forward to the next season and I'll be able to play more champions than just a couple auto attackers as we move into preseason. Are we going to see the return of Vayne, the young Vayne? She's coming back in the preseason.
She's really popular right now.
She's always popular.
Yeah.
She's the other Caitlyn of bot lane. That and Ezreal,
it's Tristana Vayne right now is kind of the...
Well, who else was there? Oh, Rift Herald. Because I can remember us having a conversation about Rift Herald back at the beginning of the season and trying to theory craft about how it worked, and I don't think Rift Herald ended up working quite like we thought it was going to, where I can remember having the conversation about putting it in a side lane then attempting to take Dragon with it, and I don't think I've ever, in the entire year that I played, seen that scenario crop up.
So to me, it's not as strong as I feared it was going to be, all said and done. It can definitely help champions who might otherwise struggle to take towers, get them down. It's not strong enough that you have to suddenly, give like a whole bunch of your team has to dedicate a bunch of effort to it, unless that that first tower it's going to go towards is really low anyway. I honestly think they did a really good job with it. The using its own health to deal damage to turrets sort of made it have a very like fixed amount of chaos it could cause, and I mean literally damage, but figuratively damage it could do to the opponent team. And so, yeah, you didn't want to. I mean, you don't want to lose Rift Herald and everything, but the opponent gets Rift Herald, and you don't think, okay, we're totally screwed because we're going to lose the game because they got Rift Herald.
Yeah, they basically changed it from a split pushing buff to a team objective that anyone can use.
And you can split push.
You can split push with it. It's not as good as the old Rift Herald for split pushing because it would give you like on hit damage and other sort of things.
But it's still
it's still good. But yeah, the old one was like it was so broken when you got it on a snowballing carry top lane or like a Trinity or a Fiora. Then no one could 2v1 them at all. They couldn't even get close. They dealt way too much damage. But the objective now is way better if you're behind, because if you're behind, it was useless before. So you can trade it, and then you're pretty much guaranteed a tower out of it if you use it properly. And you should almost always be giving it to your jungler, because they're the ones that get to roam around the map.
Unless your jungler is Lee Sin, who then might be thinking twice about it. Only because I played with one person who forgot that he or she had the Rift Herald, and so went to ward hop to a trinket, ended up channeling the Rift Herald and just totally wasting the thing. Yeah. So one Lee Sin player had a really bad day with Rift Herald, but otherwise...
Yeah, when you want to spawn Rift Herald when you have like an advantage over the enemy teams, when you can force an uneven fight. So if you're grouped mid and they have a top laner with no teleport up there, pop the Rift Herald. Or if you've just got a pick, go to a lane where there's a tower and pop Rift Herald, because it's going to help you get the objective really fast and create a lot of pressure.
I honestly didn't even get my first Rift Herald, buff or whatever it is and everything until like last month.
Yeah, you can give it to the supports if it's at like 1930 when you pick it up, right? Because they're roaming around as well.
Yeah, but they just have to keep too much of an eye on certain other things to have them be where you want when you want to cast that. It's best in the jungler's hand then I'd say probably a top laner and then probably mid laners.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. But no, I'm really happy about the rework for Rift All.
That's a lot of fun. It's cool to play around. Like you get to do interesting things. And I mean, I guess again, the big thing to me is like it never feel like if you're. I guess it's a win harder thing if you get it when you're ahead, and maybe you're just getting it so that you can deny your opponent the opportunity of getting it. But you don't like you pointed out, it's not useless if you're behind. It can actually like start to build some momentum for your team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we just saw it being taken in pro play as a way to drive down a first turret. Like they would just get the turret low enough, summon Rift Herald, and then use it just to knock that last quarter or half.
Yeah, in coordinated team play, it's even better than it is in solo queue because sometimes when teams are both really good, like in pros, it's hard to squeak out an advantage of your opponents if they're playing smart and playing safe with all their wards. So taking that Rift Herald really can help you maybe crack open mid tower, and then that opens you guys up to all sorts of jungle control. So it's better the higher you get in elos.
Was it the same this season? Was Courage Colossus this season? Early in the season, like Maokai and stuff?
The start of the season, yeah.
Yeah, best mastery ever.
Yeah, Courage of the Colossus replaced Strength of the Ages, because Strength of the Ages was just like
that was the best.
It was really strong, and it was just outright warping the jungle meta. And then Courage of the Colossus came in and warped jungle and top lane, and to a lesser extent support. Like it was, you couldn't take Courage; it was useless. But the number of champions that were just running over stuff, like a Darius would take Courage of the Colossus just because, like, okay, well, I'm gonna grab somebody, and then I am going to become unkillable. And then when they start dealing damage to me, I'm gonna heal it all up. And
shit! I think the idea of it was really good, but the numbers were way too high, right? Yeah. So it's still the same principle. I think Strength of the Ages is not healthy for the game at all. Giving free stats to basically mostly junglers is dangerous.
This see this all the seasons I played too fucking long. They all start to blend together. So this was the Nautilus season, right? Like when Nautilus was being pricked in pro play all the time out of top lane because of his fantastic wave clear and synergy with Courage of Colossus.
That was the beginning of the season,
Beginning of the season. And then they nerfed Nautilus, and then they finally got Courage to a good state, and then
to a manageable state.
Then they never really buffed Nautilus back.
Yeah, he doesn't really
Hanser kept playing him anyway.
He doesn't really need it, to be fair. Like that's just so. If you got a champion like Maokai, who they've changed and who's still getting played out of top lane, or Nautilus, people who get tons of free health, either temporary or permanent, I think that's just, and they're a top laner getting a lot of gold. I just think that's just really unhealthy for the game as a whole.
The problem is it's really hard to come back against those kind of characters. That's why Strength of the Ages was wrong for the game, because you take advantage of your opponent. So you're jungling, you're playing Lee Sin. You kill the opponent, and then you counter jungle his camps. Not only have you got the gold for the counter jungling, the kill, and the pressure from the kill, but you also gain health because of Strength of the Ages. Now your opponent isn't getting that, so it's just another thing to add to the snowball. So free health is
and the other. I get the spirit of that mastery, but the problem ends up being that, it was only useful, or exactly what you got rid of, or what you outlined, and all of the other masteries were useful the entire game.
Yeah, if you couldn't clear the jungle and use Strength of the Ages, you weren't a good jungler. That's just the fact of the matter. Then.
Or if you're like me and forget to build your Smite 'em and finish Tiamat and Spirit Visage on Warwick before you get a Smite 'em, you're a real good jungler. Nice. Hey, I was going against the Master Lee Sin, still kept up with him.
Good for you. I'm proud.
Good.
It's
job.
because it's Warwick, and all you have
good
to do
job
is
being
fucking
bad.
camp somebody. Oh no, I got auto-filled last night into jungle it was a Master mid lane and Master jungler. And we ended up winning that game, but
ranked or normal?
They were flex.
Okay.
I was playing with Todd, so my MMR stuff gets inflated when I play with him, which I'm totally okay
kill
with.
That game.
That was a different game. I was playing Karthus that game.
Oh, okay.
He stole my kill. I had a kill locked in, and he ulted it just to start the. I don't know if you watch that. He ults that guy, and he's got like this much life left, where he would have 100% died. But hey, he got a pentakill for it, so
worth.
The man gets to add that to notch to his belt. Yeah, we saw Zach was really strong for a while this season. Obviously, Maokai got reworked. Sejuani gets reworked as well.
I mean, so let's compare the tank updates versus the assassin updates and everything. Because, like, Sejuani, Maokai, Zach were running the show at varying points right after their rework and everything up through Worlds,
Yeah.
Zach got hit pretty hard along the way, and he didn't see prominence at Worlds with Sejuani and Maokai, and Zach certainly still had his time in the sun.
All three of them have been tier 1 junglers in the last 6 months.
I mean, Rengar was a terror for a while, and then eventually got toned down to a point where people kind of stopped looking at him. LeBlanc saw, nerf after nerf after nerf after change after nerf. And people were scared of Katarina for a long time. And I always get nervous when I see Katarina because I just assume somebody playing her knows what they're doing. But it seemed like Katarina and Talon ultimately ended up being the more overlooked of the two. Like, people will say, hey, they're solo queue nightmares and that type of stuff, but you don't see them that often.
Yeah, I think the first thing to note about these champions, and when you're looking at win rates and what's warping the meta and stuff, is Katarina, LeBlanc, Rengar, and Talon are quite difficult to play. Maybe not so much Talon, but the other three are. Whereas Sejuani, Maokai, and Zach are not. They have a lower floor, so it's not as hard to play them really well. So that's one of the main differences for their early success. As well as, I don't know, I'm pretty sure Katarina was everyone who's a cat main or plays her thinks that was a great rework. It added a lot more utility to her kit. LeBlanc was good. The problem, again, with Assassins is they're kind of either too overpowered or they're not strong enough, and then there's a better assassin that does their job better than them.
That's
whereas
a good way of putting it.
Tanks, it's really all they have to be able to do is crowd control and clear the jungle if they're junglers, which these three are, and then build their items because their items are cheap and they sort of all get the same utility from them, if that makes sense.
Because Kassadin was ultimately the guy that our friend Santana was, the most afraid of for a long stretch there. It felt like 2 or 3 months or something. He didn't ever want Kassadin up on the board and everything, but Kassadin wasn't an assassin that got touched. I mean, I think that just lends sort of credence to the point you were making. Is it's whoever, there's just somebody that's stronger, even if there's one you like most.
Yeah. Well, we also I guess we can talk about. I don't really have anything to add. I'm sorry. We can talk about the new champs as well that came out. Ivern, Camille, Rakan, Zaya, Kane, and Ornn. With I guess 4 and potentially, yeah, you could argue with Kane being 5 of those champions seeing success almost right out of the gate.
They were all Ivern had the steepest learning curve. Ivern took the longest for people to come around to, but I think he was such a quirky.
I love Ivern.
Just intriguing champion that people stuck with him despite his early struggles and everything.
Yeah, he's really peculiar. He's not like any other jungler in the game. He's kind of like Nunu, but really not even at all like Nunu. So you're right, steep learning curve.
It was frustrating how he made you play the early stages of the game differently than any other champion did. But when I think about it now, it's yes, that was frustrating. But once I knew, I understood how Ivern's early game worked and everything, I knew how to sort of prepare and deal with that. And that was okay. As opposed to old Evelyn, where, okay, so right out of the gate, it's I just have to worry about this champion showing up from out of nowhere and murdering me. And so I when I think about the two of them in that regard and everything, I'm fine with the way Ivern changed the early game, because it's way, way healthier than what Evelyn was doing to the early game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you can see Ivern. Basically, that's the only difference.
Well,
but his packing is so powerful. He can start on any camp in the jungle and get level 2. So that means as an enemy jungler, it's so difficult to play against him. You really have to figure out where he's starting so that you can even think about his possible paths.
And your teammates also have to be. Excuse me. Oh man, it's been a long couple days. Even with Ivern, as Dom was, I believe that Dom just pointed out, everyone has to understand how Ivern works and what Ivern can do, especially at the first 3 or 4 minutes of the game, because bottom lane and mid have to collapse on Ivern if he's walking toward your red or blue at any point in time. And there's no other champion to do that, because generally speaking, the junglers can duel each other and it doesn't take 3 people to knock them off. But you need those 3 people running at Ivern because he can instantly take a camp with Smite.
Yeah, and he's a terrible duelist, which is his downfall, but he has tons of crowd control. He has great tower diving at level 6.
It is cool that they managed to make a jungler who had a really interesting invade strategy that also couldn't duel if he got like he was relying on being where the opponent wasn't and everything. Whereas like, Nunu, who ended up being almost as good as Ivern during that stretch of time. Nunu, is notoriously like a pretty good duelist at that stage of the game.
He's fine. Hard. Yeah. He's annoying as hell. He's pretty tanky.
Yeah. And then you think of all the other duelists who are trying to, or all the other champions who want to get in and invade early and everything. They're all really good duelists. And Ivern being not like.
I was just gonna say, like you were mentioning other champions, so like your classic Lees and your Elises and stuff. Skarner, yeah, those champs are not only just trying to take camp, they're trying to kill you. That's the reason they're invading. Whereas Ivern is he's coming to basically mess with you and take your resources. And he's not looking. He's looking to find you, but not to fight you.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. We
which
didn't
is
have
awesome.
That champ.
But
that didn't exist.
I know, and now it's great that it does. So him and Nunu are sort of in a similar category. They're support junglers, but the problem with those two is when the meta favors them, they're so far and above better than any other jungler. It's actually kind of disturbing. Like think about in recent memory when Nunu's been good, he's untouchable. He's the best jungler.
Right.
And usually it's because the jungle's harder to clear or getting counter jungled is really punishing. So we might see the return of Nunu and Ivern come the preseason with the cache of experience changes or tweaks.
Sure.
Which is a good segue. Because we had, catch-up XP. I mean, was a thing, and I think it really suffocated the aggressive counter jungling strategy a lot of people like to use in the past. But like think back to the start of the season and everything, and how much everybody was freaking out about the plants. Everybody thought this was going to be like a colossal failure, and now I'm trying to remember what last season was even like and not having plants. And I'm like, oh, that I guess was boring or less fun and everything. Just all the little things that you could do with plants. And I'm not going to speak for all of the players out there and everything, but I know I certainly like use them all very heavily and really appreciated having them there.
Right.
They're cool. They're just like having another option to do stuff with. I mean, they're not particularly overpowered, any of them, but you just got to get used to them being in the game.
Yeah, I mean, if I know there are a number of junglers who are able to do some really interesting ganking stuff because the plant was there. And I found myself like aggressively trying to get rid of plants and everything. I mean, and maybe that was the big thing is like I just sort of assumed my jungler wasn't going to use it, or maybe I took the attitude of like, you know what, tough shit. I'm not going to risk the opponent jungler coming in to use this type of stuff. But like a blast cone right around dragon or baron, especially if I was I happen to be on the opponent's side of the map, I'm definitely taking that. Just to deny them the possibility and the
blast cone that pops over into the river is probably the best one outside of the ones that are in dragon. Those are for stealing, but that one makes some ganks early really, really good. Think about it as like you're basically flashing over the wall without having to flash over the wall, if that makes sense. So you can't, usually you would roll down the river to gank bot side from that the side with the blast cone, and the problem is most people put a ward in that bush, so they'll see you coming and then back off. But now what happens is you blast cone and you are in the bush, and that's when they see you. So you got like basically an extra 2 seconds where the enemy has not seen you. So it does not matter if that bush is warded, you can still get onto them because you still have your flash and you still potentially have your movement abilities.
Yeah, I think they ended up working out well, especially with, I always say specifically in pro play, but that's just because that's where we get to see it happen the most. We get to see the highest skill. There were some really good games, especially in the, I want to say it was quarterfinals or semifinals, where support Alistar had used a blast cone to knock somebody away, then used all the rest of his abilities to keep someone CC'd the entire time, but using the environment to his advantage to make sure that the enemy did not, enter the team fight, allowed his team to win that specific team fight they were in. And that's a lot of fun to watch and play, people using those intelligently to assist their team.
And like it's, I'm sure nobody has an example just off having and everything, but I imagine we can all like think of a time where we get to abuse the blast cone and everything. Oh, I thought I was dead, and then the blast cone was up and it saved my life. Or I thought I was dead, and then the blast cone was up, and my teammate hit the blast cone and knocked me back into a sure death to the enemy.
Yeah, they're really good for early invading junglers too. It gives you an excellent sort of resource to escape if you're getting collapsed on. So if you're a jungler that does not like to get invaded or is not looking to duel the enemy jungler, you should probably pop the blast cones before you do your camps. my suggestion.
Well, let's talk. I wanted to touch on Camille really quickly because she was probably the only champion on this list that saw play in 4 different roles. Top
Galio.
Well, I guess Galio was an update, not a new champion.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
So yeah, because we saw Camille top, jungle, mid, and support. Generally 3 of those 4 roles, but still she got played literally everywhere.
I think she has a really overloaded kit, to be honest.
And that's what everyone has said forever. And she's still good. She's obviously not as good as she was previously after cheating a bunch of nerfs, but a champion coming out of the gate. She was probably the most powerful champion coming out of the gate, and it stayed that way for a while.
One of the interesting things about like how this show has evolved is we kind of had to just grow with the game, or maybe by intent or by accident we sort of evolved with the game and everything, because like we have, you know, Punch and Todd are both top lane mains and everything, but they both play very, very, very different champions and everything, you know. And Punch really took to Camille right off the bat because she just fits that mold of the fighter, goes in, you know, causes some chaos, picks moments, has to be really good with timing and that type of stuff, which is historically not been Todd's MO based on his champion pool and everything. He really likes the bruisers who just get in there, raise some hell, and cause trouble while not dying. And Camille like just really stands out as that Punchinello champion more than anything else. And it just, I don't know, I thought she added a lot to the game.
Yeah, a lot of frustration and
I think she's in a fine spot. She was definitely really strong right out of the gate, but I think she's fine now.
Well,
she's in line with those duelist top laners that can snowball really hard and set up ganks well.
Yeah,
and avoid ganks well. So she's really like attuned to a clever player now, one who knows matchups really well, rather than just being so powerful that anyone can pick her up and just spam her abilities and get free kills. You know, that's one of the important things about balancing top lane. You have to make sure that because it's basically a 1v1 lane, you have to. Most people gain their advantages through knowing matchups, so that's why you got a lot of Riven 1 tricks. The champion is also a very overloaded kit, probably more so than Camille, but she does have weaknesses.
And it used to be worse when her shield scaled with AD.
It does.
No, it used to have a higher scaling than it does
Okay,
now.
it still does.
Yeah. No, she used to have much higher base health regen as well, but she had 8, and now she's down to
she's
5.
one of those characters that not like any of us. We don't play Riven. I played her the other day with the listeners in the jungle. I'm not very good at her, but still, none of us could just pick her up and like go crazy and get all sorts of kills. You really have to learn her and learn her matchups and learn her strength, and that's when the champion becomes powerful.
Challenge accepted.
That's sort of the defining feature of a balanced duelist in the top lane.
They didn't release a bona fide mage this year.
That's why we have the new one coming out. So
I know, but I mean,
this year.
for season 7, yeah, but for season 7,
one looks really cool.
I'm just, and I was looking over the list, and I was just like kind of an idle thought I had and everything. I kind of feel like they failed with their intent behind Xayah and Rakan. I think the champions individually are really, really successful, but this idea, and maybe they were trying to succeed in a pair that they released at the same time that could perform on their own and everything. But from a pure synergy standpoint and everything, I don't feel rewarded for picking Rakan when Xayah's on my team.
I've never played them, so I can't really talk to it. But yeah, it's just the extended gap closer, right? Is that the difference?
Extended gap closer, and Rakan's getting extra attack speed.
Yeah, which
doesn't really make a big difference, right?
Yeah.
No, because Rakan doesn't spend a whole lot of time auto attacking except for outside of turrets. But I understand where you're going with that, Dom. And you know, you've always got to start somewhere when it comes to making the duo pair.
Oh sure,
the pair. So I'm glad they did. I'm glad they released them. I'm not upset with either of the champions. You know, 2 champions at once, and then we get to see how they both work. And even if they work individually individually and well on their own, that's perfectly fine and dandy. So I would not call it a failure by any means. At least they released 2 working champions, and it wasn't like Rakan had to have Xayah to be good, but Xayah was independently good on her own.
Yeah, I'm really glad that they're playable individually. Like they're very unique characters, but I agree with you, Dom. They could do it a little bit more. together.
Yeah, it's not that they failed in releasing the champions. The champions are both really good. They're really powerful. They're adding stuff to the game and everything. But just this idea that releasing them as a duo and trying to build up that specific element of it, I think that's the only thing that failed. It just doesn't feel especially rewarding to pick both of them.
Sure.
Yeah, it is better than the opposite case, which is where they're so good together that they're unplayable by themselves. So I'd take it this way, but you would never want to go into solo queue if they're in the other state and be like, oh no, they got Zyricon, we lose.
Right.
It's much better that you can sort of play around that. But yeah, it would be nice if they had maybe one more ability together besides just their voice lines.
Well, let's because I'm dying over here, guys. I have to turn a fan on here shortly, so we're gonna have to call this one early until I get my AC fixed. But visual gameplay and updates, or visual and gameplay updates. We had Evelyn, Urgot, Galio, Warwick, Yorick, and the gameplay updates alone were Shyvana and Xin Zhao. And out of those, obviously Warwick probably is the one that Warwick and Galio are the two that stand out above the crowd. Galio being the pro play Bane, where it's pick or ban Galio, and Warwick being probably solo queue pick ban at this point, with how good and how well the Warwick rework went. Out of all of them, I think the Warwick rework was the absolute best.
Yeah, I have to agree. He's also so much different than he used to be, so much more dynamic. Old Warwick was very, very, very stale. He basically had the point and click suppress and a couple auto attack resets and a buff, and now he's just so dynamic. There's so many different things you can do with him, so many different play styles, sort of akin to the rest of them on this list. I don't know. Yorick's cool, but once again, he's a lot different than he used to be, but he's still not a very popular champion.
It's unfair to try and talk about Evelyn right now. She just really hasn't been out long enough, and by the time she was released, it was so late in the season, and everything was kind of so set that having a conversation about her feels unfair. But she came, she was reworked in season 7. So
yeah, and she's also really weak, so I don't think it's quite fair at all. But hopefully they switch her up soon.
I'm always going to be disappointed that the pros took to Galio as much as they did and everything. I thought it was so cool that they released a champion who seemed like he could successfully play out of 4 different roles. But the same way, like whereas Camille was just being picked there because she was blatantly overpowered and everything, Galio, it genuinely felt like he could do all of them from the design of his kit. Now, his kit was too strong, and that was probably the why he was getting away with working in 4 different roles. But it felt cool to have a champion that reasonably, he could get picked in any of them, and you can be like, okay, no, that makes sense. Galio's doing things that this role, normally offers. So
yeah, and what the best part about Galio is mobility ultimate. It's just insane for coordinated team play. It's really hard to answer at times. It's why champs Twisted Fate's kind of out of the meta now, but if he was a little bit had better matchups, he'd see pro play. Shen, always a good top laner, has been for his whole release. I don't know. I can't think of other globals. At the top of my mind, Talia.
Overall,
Rise.
Overall, did you guys enjoy season 7?
I
loved it. Besides the ADC meta the last couple months.
I almost feel like season 2 was the only season where I ever felt like they took a step backwards. But even then, that might just be like hindsight or something. But by and large,
the game was too young at that point to say anything about moving forward or backwards.
I mean, by and large, I feel like they tend to do really well moving from one season to next, and I appreciate that they are never taking the attitude of like, well, we're just going to leave it, leave things the same and everything, and just let it shake out and everything. I had more fun this season than I did last season, and I had a lot of fun last season. So,
do you want to talk about Xin Zhao and Shyvana quick, or?
I think Xin Zhao is really good. Todd hates him, but I played him. I jungled him over the weekend just in some of those fan games, and had a lot of fun. I think he's a blast to play.
Yeah, he's definitely way better than he was. Slightly more dynamic, which is good.
I don't think
it's the same. I don't think. Did she get a gameplay update this year?
Yeah,
she did. Like at the start of the year, they changed her passive to that dragon thing. They changed some of her.
I did the champion select on her, but I don't know this. No, I do know this, but I didn't really consider
fireball
that,
is different, and
I didn't consider it like a huge change to her. She's pretty similar.
Yeah. Well, and so is Xin, and that's why they were just in gameplay updates. It was just little stuff touched, but enough that Riot wanted to talk about them.
Right. They moved a bunch of stuff around in the kit.
Yeah, they tweaked some stuff, but she has the basically the similar style to
she's way
itself.
more similar than Zin is
Mhm.
to his ulti.
That's true. Just a different
Or
passive
passive.
now, right? They moved. They,
Passive is so bad. Do you want to hear me complain about it more? You go check out that champion select.
yeah, but then they moved.
I go on and on about it.
Come on, that passive is better than her old passive though, because her old passive was now moved to her ultimate, and that's like, and you instantly get it filled at 6. Like automatically, that is better. Just getting free stats, no matter how bad that is better than Lysandra. All right, that will always be better than Lysandra.
Lysandra's is bad, but
Lysandra's
no,
is
her,
trash. It is an awful passive. It is probably the worst passive in the game.
yeah, it's close.
So yeah, Dom could go on and a whole tirade about that. But listen, I want to keep talking, but I am sweating my ass off because I do not currently have air, and I need to turn a fan on. And I'm trying to be nice to you all by not having a fan on during the show, so it doesn't go on in the background. Yeah, season 7 overall, I think it was great. I had a lot of fun doing it. I did like Flex, and I'm really looking forward to next season to be able to play a lot more Flex with you guys and everybody else.
That's the funny thing is like it's you hit the end of the season and I'm just like, okay, I had a lot of fun and everything, but we also like had just kind of at that point where I'm losing interest, and now like preseason ramp or is about to hit, and it's like, okay, this is exactly the time that that I needed them to be making changes.
Well, I have
Yeah,
I have interest in hitting golden 3, so let's go do that.
I'm gonna start streaming in the preseason too, so you can check
There
that
you go.
out.
There you go.
I'll let you guys know when it starts up though.
Well, I'm gonna drop it off there. I gotta turn a fan on, go soak my head, guys. I hope you enjoyed the Trinity Force podcast. I'll be back on a lot more of them here going forward. Work is good. Life is good. So, guys, we will see you all on Wednesday with, I believe, preseason discussion if we can pull enough people together for it. If not, we will do our best.
Wednesday's patch notes.
See, we have to. All right, guys, have a good weekend. Peace.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.